Hey sports fans, welcome to another Rocket Vlog. My name is Shalthis, this is ShoutStone, and I apologize first for the backlight. It's still kind of sunny out and that window seems to be a haven for that sort of stuff. Anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about ESL. That's why I'm here. A little bit about what to expect in the coming month. So, I wrote a post for Reddit that just went up yesterday, which I'll link to in the description below. Basically, I just talk a little bit about the latest Europe Cup, and I also talk about kind of the European scene. One thing you may have noticed with me is that I'm pretty focused on the European side, mainly due to my work schedule. I also shoutcasted the EU Cup 3 and 4 in an unofficial capacity. I was unable to do number 5. I'll explain why. Hopefully soon I'll be able to explain why. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about this time is a little bit about the scene kind of going forward, mainly for the month of September. So if you're not familiar with how ESL works, basically teams compete every week in the different cups, and this is for both EU, NA, and also South America. So there's a few different options. But teams compete every week in the different cups, and they earn points based off their performance. You get points for placing, I think it starts at 16 and up, or 32 and up, something like that. Either way, you earn points. The more you earn, the higher you rank, and the top 8 teams every month compete in a monthly final. Now, the monthly final for August is coming up this Saturday for both EU and NA, so you can stay tuned for that. However, going into September, it's important to know kind of who to look at and what teams to, I guess, keep an eye on. There are the typical, or the usual suspects for September. Teams like Flipside Tactics, of course, they'll still be around. Team Epic, Famous, Team Rocket, Shazoo, you know, the list goes on. A lot of teams that are already at the top of the bracket now are probably still going to be there when the next month rolls in. But I have a list here of just some teams I did want to talk about who kind of haven't really made a big presence, or either weren't in the top 8 this past month, but I think are going to be teams to watch going forward. First off, a team that narrowly missed the cut, who I'm not really sure why they missed the cut, but they did, Supersonic Stars. They're a team from Germany, and they tied with Rec Amended, a UK team that placed 8th with 50 points. I don't know why they lost the tiebreaker, though. I'm not sure what ESL determines is their tiebreaker, but they did. However, going forward, this team has consistently placed in the quarterfinals for the past 2 weeks. I think if they're going to keep getting involved, they're going to be the team to watch. And I think we're going to see a little bit more from Supersonic Stars in the coming weeks. So it's really going to be worth watching for that. Another team that I really think you should keep an eye on, just barely missed the cut due to points, is a French team called Ultimate Team. Now, Ultimate Team really has been performing pretty well over the last few Europe Cups. I believe their first top 8 came, I believe it was in Europe Cup number 2. Yeah, the second Euro Cup was when a lot of these current teams really started to take place, and Ultimate Team kind of emerged at that point and started to make a little bit of a name for themselves. So they started playing in the Europe Cup 2, they placed in the top 8, and they did the same thing in Europe Cup 4, but didn't do it in the other 2. So they're kind of right on the cusp of making things a little interesting. So Ultimate Team is going to be another team that I recommend kind of keeping an eye on and seeing how they perform. Of course, you know, like I said, the usual suspects. The teams in the top 8 now are probably going to be fairly common there, or at least for the most part. Die Mannschaft, I'm not sure. They're one team that placed into... Actually, they were placed 4th overall in the 3rd Euro Cup, but they haven't played since. So I'm not sure what their deal is, but they did really well when they were there. So maybe they just took advantage of a really good bracket, but they haven't actually played at all. So it's not like they played and haven't qualified, they just haven't played. So Not really sure what to make of Die Mannschaft, but nothing there. Other than that, there's not really, honestly, the country that seems to be standing out to me when it comes to the Europe Cup is Germany. There's a lot of German teams that are really starting to kind of stand out. You know, Die Mannschaft was one of them, but there's High-End Gaming Crew. They're not quite top tier yet, but they're definitely getting closer. They placed in the top 8 in Europe Cup 3, and they've been kind of working their way through the bracket pretty well in other Europe Cups, even if they haven't placed in the top 8 since. But High-End Gaming Crew is one of them. Firewall is another team. I've talked about them before in other write-ups I've done. They have had some tough bracket runs. They haven't quite qualified any higher than top 8 since Europe Cup 3, which, to be perfectly honest, that bracket was very random, and a lot of teams were able to take advantage of really good bracket placement. So we'll kind of have to gauge it going forward, but they may be able to capitalize on that with the first bracket, or the first Europe Cup of the month, because that's when the brackets, or the seeds, randomize again. So, something to look forward to. Yeah, Firewall is another good team. They're from Germany. They're worth checking out. But really, you know, that's just one country that it seems that more and more teams are starting to emerge from. Obviously, Team Famous is predominantly German, so they're kind of leading the pack. But there's a lot to be mindful of. Only one new face in the top 8 this past Europe Cup, and that was Universe. But other than that, everybody has been in there before, which I think is kind of a good sign. We're starting to see the EU scene stabilize a little bit. You know, the top 8 this past week, of course, Flipside Tactics, formerly Teamy Weemy, they took it. This is their 3rd EU Cup in a row, so they're clearly the #1 European team right now. You've got Team Famous, who has pretty much solidified their position as the #2 European team. Team Rocket, placing 3rd overall, finally making their big comeback. They had a rough couple of past weeks, but they're starting to emerge again. Team Shazoo showing back up there. You know, again, Supersonic Stars. Team Epic, a little bit of a rough week, but I don't think they were playing with their usual crew. They usually fare a little better than they did. And Generation Abilities rounded out the top 8. Generation Abilities, that's another team that has been kind of consistently faring well in the bracket, but hasn't gotten any big wins. And that really seems to be the cutoff point, is when does a team finally go from decent bracket performance to actually getting those big wins that count? And I think that's what we're going to hopefully start seeing this month. But really the team to beat, obviously, Flipside Tactics. They are going to be the favorites in every Europe Cup that they play in going forward, just like Cosmic Aftershock kind of dominated the NA scene. But things are starting to get a little interesting on the NA side. You know, you've got Flipside Tactics, yeah. I'm sorry, you've got Cosmic Aftershock, but you've also got Untethered starting to emerge as a contender. Untethered eliminating Cosmic Aftershock in the MLG tournament just a few days ago. You've got Kings of Urban, who fared pretty well in the first MLG tournament. They're starting to emerge. So you're getting these teams that are starting to fight for the #1 spot. We're not quite seeing that yet in EU. Teamy Weemy, Flipside, has really kind of gotten a foothold on that spot, but give it a little more time, and I think the teams like Flipside, like Famous, like Team Rocket, are actually going to start contesting for that spot. So hopefully that's what we see. But anyway, I'm going to wrap things up for now. I will be back again pretty soon. Tomorrow, a new Shoutcast will be going live, so don't miss that. But that is going to do it for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.